Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall. Clay, say hi to the folks.
How we doing, folks? It's a blustery Columbus, Ohio week, and a lot of things are happening as Ohio State continues to prep for a playoff run, and their quarterback Julian Sayin has been called to New York
summoned
for the second time since he was 12 years old.
Yeah,
and we'll have some of that, and Tim will have incredible
conversation with Wednesdays with Wilhelm, as I'm calling it. Since we did our Monday show actually Sunday afternoon because we wanted to talk about the college football playoff, the Indiana game et al. Ad nauseum, and we did that, and now we're moving on. And this, Julian Sayin invited to the finalist soiree for the Heisman Trophy. He's one of 4 finalists, including Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt, and Jeremiyah Love, running back from Notre Dame, and of course the odds-on favorite, it looks like now, Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback from Indiana. As I said weeks leading up to that game, because you could see that coming like a collision of super tankers in the Suez Canal, and that's kind of what it played out to be. Boy, a lot of scrambling going on. It came down to being decided by one score, 13-10. Indiana won. As I was talking to a couple of people at Ohio State today after we got to talk to Julian Sayin, I mean, really Ohio State had 2 more chances to score then, and came away with 0 points inside the 10-yard line twice. Missed a field goal like Indiana did, made a field goal. It's just Ohio State's miss came at the exact wrong time and kept them from tying the game up with like 2.5 minutes left. It is what it is now. Indiana goes on, hangs on, and wins the Big Ten championship for the first time in any manner since '67. The first time outright since 1945 or something like that. So that's for them to ballyhoo. Bottom line is Ohio State is still a very viable team. I was telling people, been on a bunch of radio shows since then, and even this show, and I was telling people, that was such an ugly game. It was so dominated by the defenses and the frenetic pace at which the defenses played. The velocity from a defensive standpoint by both teams was off the charts, in my opinion, and neither offense was truly ready for it. It's just that Indiana made more plays than Ohio State did, and that's why it won the game.
We walked into the Woody this morning, and Ryan Day was coming at us, gym shorts, towel, didn't have the racket, but I think that's where he was headed. I'm sure he keeps it over there at the Ty Tucker Tennis Center.
Yeah.
It looked like he was going to take a little frustration out because he loves to get over there and mix it up and pound those tennis balls, and he didn't have much to say. He was on the phone. And he was a man on a mission, and he looked like, I'm going to go take Ty Tucker, and we're gonna get some licks in this morning.
Yeah, I believe that was a quick trip for him because I believe he went to the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame dinner,
right?
Award ceremony, because Urban Meyer, his predecessor at Ohio State, was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and it's really funny because Ryan Day would have to trip on his face, roll down a mountain, fall into a creek, get up cold in a sub-zero or sub-freezing temperatures, and wander around the wilderness now, to make the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
but that would be a great story for another day. Bottom line is he was there. I think somebody tweeted a photo of him or a little short video clip of him being there. Like, oh, what's he doing there? Don't they have wounds to heal and stuff? And I go, it's an annual affair. And it's held at pretty much the same time every year, except it used to be in New York City. Now it's at the Bellagio Hotel in Las Vegas. And so looks like he came back, he got on a plane right afterward and came back. So is what it is at this point. But the bottom line is, yes, I don't think anyone expects Julian Sayin to win this Heisman because, like I said, I thought the Heisman Trophy was going to come down to who won the game on Saturday night, not just the Big Ten championship at that. And it looks like that's going to be the case because
I think so.
Fernando Mendoza threw a pinpoint little fade route to back shoulder route to Elijah Surratt, which beat Jermaine Matthews in coverage for Indiana's only touchdown. Each team scored one touchdown. But sometimes when it's a push going on, it's just one play that makes a difference, right?
Yeah. Rock fight times 10. I mean, It just was, and I'm not going to go into my word on saying, but no doubt about it, just a throwdown at the Circle City Classic, if you will, in Indy.
Well, it was hard for either team to get to. It was disjointed, as I use that term, offensively for both teams. I think the 1-2 teams were identified in that game, though, in the country, in the College Football Playoff Committee, the esteemed College Football Playoff Committee, for the most part, august College Football Playoff Committee might have made Notre Dame fans mad, but I think they got 1-2 correct. Do you agree?
I'm
because
fine.
It came down to a game, and this team won and that team lost, so they made that team, Indiana, number 1. They made Ohio State, which had been number 1, number 2. And really, that's what they did with Notre Dame and Miami. But as Jeff Snook and I've got a conversation with him coming up on my Monday podcast. We did at his cabin up on Charles Mill Lake up by Mansfield. Just talking about, that's coming up in our Monday podcast. So be sure to tune in for that one. But as he and I both discussed vehemently, and I agreed with 100%, Miami wasn't a bad guy in this. If there's a team that should not have been included, it was Alabama with 3 losses. Alabama opted not to play in the Southeastern Conference Championship game. I know they were there.
But they
I know they were in uniform, but they opted not to compete. That's a team that's maybe above average at best this year. It's not one of the elite 10, because we know now everybody's yelling at James Madison and Tulane. That's very unfortunate, because the rules stated
are set up
that everybody agreed to that those teams would end up in the college football playoff. They had the years they had. So, yell at Alabama, yell at the SEC, and all of the stupid what do you want to call it, begging and et cetera, that goes on by the SEC. What's the rhetoric that goes on by the SEC? Well, why can't you have 3 teams in there, or 2 teams in there with 3 losses, right? Or 1 team in there with 3 losses?
They already got 5 teams, right? I mean,
correct. And one of them's Alabama.
Yeah.
So,
I think they're well taken care of.
Take your money and go home, and SEC. And that's who Notre Dame should be upset at. And I think they are upset at that. And, but it should have, it should always come down to if 2 teams have the same record, and pretty much, in my opinion, generally the same season, which Notre Dame and Miami had when you really break it down.
Yeah, I would true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If this team beat that team should go, even if it was a season opener. Right, but anyway,
right.
I digress. I'm good at digress. Let's get back to the Heisman Trophy. I've voted in it now for 42 years. I've enjoyed voting in it. The funny thing is the voting process has changed now to where the polls don't actually open until, I think it was 6 p.m., may have been 5 p.m. on Saturday, and closed at 6 p.m., I think, on Monday.
To because your ballot?
Yeah, because everything's electronic now. So they knew at 6:01 p.m. who the finalists were. And interesting group of finalists. Diego Pavia, who I really like, but no. The two games that could have put Vanderbilt in and could have put him over the top, they didn't win. And he was kind of average in a couple of the other big games they had. So, but what he's done for Vanderbilt football.
In a collective
they end up finding Jared Curtis. the number one quarterback in this 2026 recruiting class, pretty much because of Diego Pavia and the way they played offense the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And so it's done wonders for Vanderbilt. But so if Nashville has a Heisman-like trophy to give out, maybe that one should go to him. But Mendoza, dude, Indiana's never done anything close to what it did this regular season, plus the Big Ten championship game. I sing the praises of Mendoza. He deserves it. He deserves the praises because he elevated them where they were missing last year in the 2 games they lost against Ohio State and Notre Dame, the two teams that played for the national championship, ironically later, was that true big-time over-the-top playmaker and I thought Rourke was a really good player, the kid who transferred in from Ohio University last year to be their quarterback. But Mendoza, man, you go back and watch his video from California, how they talked him into coming to Indiana. I mean, you could talk about NIL offers and things like that, but they must have shown him something literally on video that said, you know what? You might be our missing link.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you come here, we can really shock the world. And so when you're on a team that's never done what it's done this year, and you are being pointed to as a major reason why, you're probably going to win the Heisman Trophy.
Well, especially after he had his lights turned out by Caden Curry.
That was one play. He's got the breath knocked out of him.
Yeah, but he looks like he's beyond the pale. And one play later, he's back, but it looked more serious.
Well, what else stood out about him? More than that, of him being able to get his air back in his lungs. What else stood out about him to you?
Well, he's never frazzled. He does not. He doesn't get in the blender, and he doesn't get.
Well, I would argue. I don't mean to stop you. I'm going to parse. Yeah. But no, he's thrown a few really bad interceptions this year, including one against Ohio State. So threw one against Oregon, which made it a 20-20 game when it should have been continuing runaway by Indiana. He threw one against Penn State that made that game closer than it should have been. And so I don't know if frazzled is the right word. I think I would use that for a couple of those throws.
Okay.
Where he didn't see things maybe properly the way he should have, or took a chance he should not have taken. But he had the guile and the wherewithal to bring them back and win those games.
Yeah, I mean, call it leadership, call it savvy, call it clutch, call it whatever.
I think the French call it a certain I don't know what.
But to hear a lot of people talk, he's a top 5 pick, and we shall see soon enough.
Yeah, we shall see soon enough. I mean, it's a slim pickings. It's going to be slim pickings in terms of quarterbacks for the NFL draft.
Right.
Coming up in April. But we digress. Obviously, Julian Sayin is not eligible for that yet. He's a second-year player. Richard freshman used to call him. Obviously, they still refer to him as a freshman because he won all these Freshman of the Week awards and all that kind of stuff this year. But
he is a sophomore, correct? I mean,
second-year player, yeah. Sophomore.
Right.
He enrolled at Alabama in December of 2024. Practiced with them heading into their playoff game against Michigan, and then Nick Saban retired right after that loss, and he jumped in the transfer portal. He just kind of did a leapfrog transfer portal, Ohio State. And is he really good? And he's gotten recognition for that. In just one season, he's proven himself to be among the elite. I think you agree with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the facts bear it out. The stats bear it out. And the record bears it out. I mean, they got into a little over their head, or whatever you want to call it, when he got under duress many occasions, and they
against Indiana.
Him. Oh my gosh, they sacked him. Ohio State offensive line had given up 6 sacks going into the game. He got sacked 5 times, and that's rough. And he still had a great night.
He still had a shot. At the end, they still had a shot. I mean, he kept throwing. He had one interception at the very beginning of the game, rallied from that, but almost all night long, he was, if that first read wasn't there in terms of maybe a quick shot or something, he was on the move. And we've talked about it on Monday's show. I mean, Indiana, with their defense, the way they were able to throw 5, sometimes 6 guys up at the line of scrimmage, but still usually only rush 4, but you didn't know which 4 were coming. It gave Ohio State offensive line fits, not just in the passing game on occasion, but in the run game also. But they kind of figured some things out as the game went on there, but you're still going to be hit or miss because you think you've got it figured out, and they throw another combination at you. So that'll be something that at least when they play the next time, Ohio State will not be able to say, well, we haven't seen this before.
Right.
Because they definitely didn't see it this year, or at least in that frenzied a situation. They definitely had not seen that, maybe a combo of that approach plus talent, which is what Indiana brought to that game in big time sacks. So, but anyway, let's get back to Julian Sayin. You had a chance to talk to him, and I, of course, per usual, I interject a question.
Yeah.
I interject a question from behind the camera. But you had to talk to him one-on-one for a brief couple of moments after his press conference on Wednesday in Ohio State's football facility. We've been talking about that for ages, ever since bowl games morphed into playoff games, morphed into the better teams are playing at the end of the year. Usually, I truly believe it's rare that your better players aren't playing in those games. And by the way, I apologize. It's one of the rare occurrences while we were doing that interview, they were mowing the artificial turf in the indoor facility there. The guy going back and forth.
They were
getting the rubber grommets reapportioned.
Yes.
And it's funny how your microphone sometimes picks that up more than what was being said. But Julian is a kind of a soft-spoken young man. And by the way, I challenge people once again. I wish I had been standing there side by side interviewing him to prove once again, ladies and gentlemen, this guy is not a short guy. I mean, he's legit 6'1", 6'1.5". I'm 6'2". What are you, Clay? You're like 5'11-ish, and he was taller than you. So I don't know. I'm kind of getting tired of this narrative about him being a shortish quarterback. He's 6'1.5", probably. He's probably going to be taller than that when he's done. But the bottom line is, just he's always a pleasant young man. Do you agree?
Are you saying lay off, man? Yeah, I mean, you've talked about that a time or two, and as I kind of snuggled up to him or whatever, I was like, okay, yeah, he's taller than me, probably an inch or two.
And his right arm takes a backseat to nobody. He's packing when he goes out on the field in terms of having that gun on his right shoulder, and it's been cool to watch him. I remember we'll have more from him on Friday leading into the Heisman real ceremonies and stuff. We'll have on our Friday show. We just talk about when I was asking about the first time you realized, you know what, you can actually, everybody dreams. I mean, I did. Everybody dreams of playing quarterback big time, very, 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 very super few. I don't even know what the percentage is. So I used 3 varies there. Very, very, very super few people ever get that shot. And then even fewer of them are gifted mentally to handle it. And even fewer of them are gifted physically, the physical tools, to flick the ball 60 yards down the field on a whim, which is what he has proven several times this year he can do. And throw it to the right guy and throw it to where that guy can catch it, but the other guy can't. And right on down the lines, everything it takes to play quarterback. He's got the mental acumen and the physical acumen, and in my opinion, the disposition.
That's it.
That's so vital.
Move on to the next play.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Mendoza has that too. I mean, I give it up to him. Diego Pavia plays the game like a lightning bolt, looking for something to strike. And boy, is it fun to watch him in that regard. 3 really sort of different looking quarterbacks. Mendoza and Sayin are sort of similar. Pavia is just a playmaker, just because maybe he's not considered to be an NFL type, prototypical type talent, doesn't mean he's not a fantastic college quarterback.
He's a program maker, I think, in addition to making plays, because just of his will to take his team where they've never been, and incredibly confident, arrogant, cocky, whatever you want to. But most guys who are good in that sport, I think, coaches too, they have that. That's why I said I thought Heartline.
They have that what? Je ne sais quoi?
No, it's a swag. It is a incredible
confidence.
I guess it's.
But then over above that, leadership. People follow them.
That's why I thought Heartline had a little Vrabel in him. Vrabel is he's a tough cookie, man, and he's proven it on the field and off. So there you have it.
The thing is, a beauty about Mike Vrabel, and having dealt with him as a player and during good times and bad times occasionally, he will tell you what he thinks.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he will tell you what he thinks about getting interviewed when they got beat, you know what I mean, type of thing. If you follow my drift there, those guys are rare, man. That will just have the driven. They're driven, but also the just the cocksuredness. I think is what it's called, the cockiness, cocksure about themselves. Of they're not aloof. They just don't want to be bothered with stupid stuff.
That's it.
And I like Julian. Julian doesn't say much, doesn't say a whole lot. He's very soft-spoken, as you can tell. But his voice has gotten louder and louder as this season went on in terms of the pocket, in terms of the huddle, in terms of the pocket, in terms of talking to his teammates on and off the field, et cetera. I'm sure he's spoken up in quarterback meetings, in offense meetings, et cetera. So, best of luck to Julian Sayin as he and Jeremiyah, his escort, and all of Julian Sayin's family. I hope his high school coach, Thad McNeil, gets to make it.
I think he said he was.
To New York City, because he's one of the great guys I've run into in this business. And so good luck to them. Now let's move on. Maybe a little bit more of a we had an autopsy on Monday of the game against Indiana. But let's move more into the realm of Matt Wilhelm, former Ohio State national championship linebacker, former Super Bowl champion linebacker with the Green Bay Packers. On what we didn't have Mondays with Matt because we recorded our Monday podcast actually on Sunday, which it came out. It should have been Sundays with, I don't know, me and you. I was going to try to think of something really stupid and clever there, but it didn't come out. So it came out worse. But Wednesdays with Wilhelm is what I'm calling this one. And just his take on the game. And it's a long segment, but I think Matt and I have really good conversations. And Matt is also one of those guys who's not afraid to tell you what he thinks about the defense, about the play calling, about this, that, and the other. So without further ado, let's get to my conversation.
Rolling.
Wednesdays with Wilhelm.
Well, this is a little different swing. This is, instead of Mondays with Matt, this is going to be Wednesday with Wilhelm. Matt Wilhelm, welcome once again to the Tim May Show featuring Clay All, but it's just you and me, as you well know, going at it.
It is, yes. And I'm going to leave you to come up with the proper name if we happen to do this on a Tuesday, a Thursday, a Friday, or Saturday. So we're going to run out of acronyms. But great to be with you as always. Unfortunate result going back to Saturday night. But again, not every goal attainable by this football team that we talked about and all the things that you could basically force onto a potential championship ring. It's now going to be voided. One big goal as I go back in and even going into this weekend, looked at my ring with the Michigan victory and its score, the Big Ten championship, as well as the national championship. The one big goal, that we kept our eyes on last year is still very much attainable. We have a first round bye. We get to sit back and lick our wounds, reflect, study ourselves, and again, allow a lot of planning to go into whomever we play in the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and Matt, this isn't what we witnessed on Saturday night, in my opinion, and I want to get your take on this because you're a former player who played at the highest levels and, was part of achieving the highest championships, national championship and then Super Bowl. But I'm just, for a team like Ohio State that took on Texas in the opener and withstood Texas, handled it 14-7, and then went on really between there and the and even the Michigan game. The Michigan game was incredibly hard fought, from the standpoint of it doesn't just because a score's not close doesn't mean it wasn't hard fought. Penn State I thought was hard fought, but this was like you think you've made your house hurricane proof, but then all of a sudden you fought a team that took it up a notch. I'm talking about Indiana. Yeah. The velocity at which that game was played in terms of defense from both teams was palpable, even sitting in the press box. And sometimes you got to take a few blows to understand what's coming. But I just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, and I'm not trying to say that anyone that I connect with or anything that I've kind of viewed leading into this football game did so, but I think it just goes to show, and we've been enamored with him, although we handled him at home last year, is what the job that Curt Cignetti and that staff at Indiana has done.
Yeah.
It is, and I think Urban Meyer has called it the biggest, return to glory in college football history.
I agree.
Because of where Indiana football was, the irrelevancy of Indiana football, which has meant a lot and been good in different periods of time, but year over year to do what Curt Cignetti has done is hasn't been done before from a place where Indiana football was. So
right.
Props to Curt Cignetti again. He almost, for me, goes into a bucket of, I respect the hell out of him 364 days out of the year unless we have to play him. And now it might be 363 days out of the year if we have to play him again. It's just what he's done, what he's done it with, I would also say is incredible because it is a bunch of 2-star, 3-star guys, portal guys from G5, and then a speckling of fill in the gaps, I guess you could say, especially, at some very important positions, with the Mendoza kid at quarterback. So that being said, I think all along we have glided by comfortably as Buckeyes, but you and I both know, and we've made it a little bit of a shtick of a joke that every week this football team, just from opening whistle to final whistle, there's always one thing that we've had to fix.
Yeah.
Whether that's pass pro or that first drive of the game or penalties on balls down the field or special team gaff. There's been one thing we've had to address that has allowed this team again to be businesslike and to be hungry and go back to work and fix and really never put themselves in a situation where they can just roll their helmet out there and win. That's not the way in which this team has won. And I think it's fantastic to have that. And I think, it's not a concern, but I think for me coming out of this football game, it's a gift to lose this game. It's a gift for anyone to have hard times or a hard time or adversity. And I think it really will galvanize this team the way that it did last year. And I think we heard that out of Caleb Downs and Brandon Inniss after the football games as leaders, captains, and the guys that really, get looked to a lot for this locker room. And I really think it'll also, the recipe for how to beat Ohio State, though, is now out there. Because, and I'm not trying to say that Indiana flat out went and beat us, but there were things that they did. That's the disruption of Julian Sayin in the pocket. That's, I'll say, minimizing our run game first half. Different things like that really had just negated some of the strengths that Ohio State's been able to lean on all season long.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan, they said as much as you just did because, on Sunday when we got to talk to him, even Saturday night after the game, I mean, he was bummed. You could tell he was extremely bummed because his team did not live up to the challenge. Here's the thing. A play goes either way in that game, and it's a different outcome. It was that kind of game. It was 13-10, not 23-10, etc. But Ohio State, for the first time, did not make that play. And
I'm going to point out too, and this is not to point out any one player, but I'm just talking about plays. And now, mind you, Indiana missed a field goal too.
Yes,
but I think we missed a field goal at a much more important time and juncture of the football game. And then I'm going to go back to, again, it happens to be the same player, but I think the third and 6 conversion on the final drive with 2 minutes and some change left on the clock. And it was the kind of the over the top fade to Becker on Jermaine Matthews.
Yes.
That to me, while watching the game, as a former player, as a football guy, as a whatever, I crumbled to my knees because I was like, I just did the math in my head with the number of timeouts that we had and the 2-minute timeout and what they were going to be able to do offensively to give us the football back, probably in bad territory, probably inside our own 20 and have to go the full length of the field. to put ourselves in a field goal position. So that's the one that really crumbled on my knees. So those are the two that in many times, and again, that's the one thing you also have to go back to as I've rewatched some of the highlights this morning on Fox Sports, like the whole 13-minute highlight, in preparation for this was Jermaine, Sonny Styles, I'm not sorry, Lorenzo Styles has his hand, in the breadbasket of Becker to make that big catch, that big 50-yard catch over the middle. Just a great catch, a great throw, great catch by a great player. The back shoulder fade for a touchdown, in phase, perfect throw, perfect catch. And then even lastly, the play that I'm talking about with Jermaine Matthews that kind of really solidified things for Indiana, extended that drive on 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7, whatever it was. Again, in phase, perfect throw, over the shoulder. Could Matthews have had a little bit tighter, but he was competitive on the football all the way to the ground with Becker. So it's and again, that's what we're going to get. And I think that's what Buckeye fans across the nation have to get ready for. Even going back, and it was a great lesson to come out on top, but like these 12 teams that got into the college football playoff, and I know that the line's going to open against Ole Miss, Tulane, and Oregon, JMU with probably a double digit line, right? But
otherwise,
the teams that otherwise the teams that are going to win that are in this football playoff, the 10 that you think can actually all go win a national championship, are going to play us and play each other the same way that Ohio State and Indiana really did Saturday night. And I think so much of it has to do, but regardless of who got in, I think the tweaks to the college football playoff, the 12-team tweaks that they had from last year, which was, Power 4 conference winners plus, automatic bids, blah, 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 blah. It was really like the judgment of this committee to get the best 12 in that deserve to go compete for a national championship. It's going to be great football each and every game.
Yeah. Yeah. But I like I told, what I was saying on Saturday night is we saw that play you talked about with a little over 2 minutes left. We saw that in the national championship game last year. Highly celebrated the Will Howard deep throw to Jeremiah Smith to basically put the game away. Ohio State ended up kicking a field goal at the end of that, and then that was that. You got to give it up to Curt Cignetti and Indiana for making that call in that game. And I'm talking about last, Saturday night. And the other call, there was another big time 3rd down throw, like you said, over the middle. That was huge in that game, like a 50-yarder to Charlie Becker. Who the heck is Charlie Becker, right? Well, now everybody knows.
Well, Charlie Becker from Nashville, Tennessee, right? Yeah. Because of what Gus Johnson has coined the phrase. Almost like Maserati Marv now. It's ingrained in our brain. But no, you're right. And I think this is not a shot at anyone coach, but this is props to Curt Cignetti his team played well enough to be in a situation to go win the game.
Yes.
And the coach made the calls to win the game.
Bold.
Not the calls to survive, not the calls to, kick something down the road to a decision that's going to be made at a different juncture. It was, and again, I think it's, what is it? Fast, relentless, and, physical are the mantras, something like that, are the mantras of Indiana football. And I think that he lived that out, and I think lastly, Curt Cignetti is a walking quote. And I thought with grace and dignity and respect, and also to be celebratory, his comments after the game were, what a great team, we have, which we know. But I think also what he said is, it's the quote that I've read multiple times now, what a gritty win,
Yes.
And I think on the flip side, it would have been a gritty win for us too. Against the number 2 team in the country. But in this case, it was a gritty win for Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers over a very good, number 1 ranked Ohio State football team.
So from what you saw from that game, we know that Indiana went to Oregon and won convincingly, even when the game was tied 20-20 after Fernando Mendoza threw that pick 6. They dominated the 4th quarter of that game. They got by the skin of their teeth at Penn State. They found a way to beat Iowa. I think it was I don't remember where that game was. Bottom line is they found a way to beat Iowa. And then we saw them play Ohio State. My point is, as you watched that game and have rewatched it, in your mind, did we see the top two teams in the country playing each other? Is that legit?
It's legit. The other team that it is legit. I think the two of them, and it's
go ahead now. So have them either. So go ahead.
Yeah, you've asked the question: Are these the best two teams in the country? I think that's the reason why the committee has chosen them to be 1-2 in the college football playoff. I do believe the teams that only watching the teams that played on conference championship Saturday. The one team that even going into the weekend that's really scared me was the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart is an amazing coach. Kirby Smart and Georgia recruits a top 5 class every year to reposition themselves almost every single year to compete for that conference championship, having win multiple national championships back to back. I think they've actually been a little under the radar. We talked about, ho-hum against University of Charlotte, ho-hum offensively against their rival Georgia Tech, but scratched and clawed their way into the conference championship and then just dominated Alabama, who happens to be another team that played but in the eyes of the committee has played well enough this season to make the tournament in the college football playoff.
Yeah. Georgia is coming on, man. What's that train coming down the track? No, I'm just joking.
And then lastly, I'll say, I mean, my gosh, it's like you go back to the barn burner that was, Indiana's win at Oregon.
Yeah.
So if I were a betting man and I had to take, 4 teams, versus the field, and I know that's, a quarter of the field or a third of the field, I guess you could say, is I think Bama, Georgia, Georgia, Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon are probably like, my lead. And I know that's easy because they're, 3 of the top 4 seeds, but I think they're the teams that have the horses to be able to go beat every other team in that tournament.
I'll tell you what, though, man, Texas Tech reminds me just the way they play, the collection of talent they put together is pretty crazy. I think if you were to stack it against Indiana's, it's probably even more ballyhooed. But the way they put that team together, but the way they play, they look like an Indiana possibly of just coming in and shocking and awing you from the standpoint of how hard they play, and
Agree.
I think it's going to be a hell of a playoff.
I do also have to say this, and I know this is a narrative that's out there on social media, so I'm kind of regurgitating where I heard it. But and I know that we have not yet won a national championship, and neither has Texas Tech, just to be on that point. But I think it's so funny how everyone that's outside of Buckeye Nation and is a non-Ohio State football fan last year talked about $20 million roster, $20 million roster.
Yeah, I'm with
$20 million roster, $20 million roster. The only reason they win is because they got this $20 million roster. Well, okay, that's great. And yet nobody's talking about Texas Tech's $40 million roster.
No,
right?
They're praising it. No,
that's what I mean. But they're going.
It's almost like, wow, look, they got their act together.
Understanding the rules and having the right alum, the billionaire alum, and like how advanced they were to be able to, they're so smart. All that. It's like, wait, hold on. But like, we did it for a 50% discount and won a natty. And now you have Texas Tech, who's, again, was a mid-tier Big 12 team, like an 8-win football team every year, that now with a $40 million roster has overcome that to position themselves to where one alum, for the most part, from Lubbock, Texas, who's an oil billionaire, is lifting this program to prominence through spending to have them arrive on the stage that they're at right now. So it's like, I just think it's funny. I mean, and again, but we all both know, like, if you step out of Buckeye Nation and into the world of college football, how much we're hated. And a lot of it has to do because we win, and we're also not shy to tell you how much we win. So I just think it's funny and a narrative that, hasn't been talked about enough.
Yeah. It's like last year too. I mean, like you said, instead of people going, wow, look what Ohio State, they got their act together in this NIL transfer portal world, but mainly NIL, and they retained their roster.
Which we were late on, which we were a late player on.
Right. But boy, Ryan Day and his staff, Mark Pantoni, these guys got their act. Instead, it was the other way around. It was like, rich man ruling the neighborhood, when in fact, you're right. They're probably, there may be 8 or 10 teams with a higher NIL situation going on right now than Ohio State, but it's how you use your money. I mean, Ohio State has turned away some recruits the way you understand it through the grapevine, who wanted too much money.
Yes.
This past year, we're like, well, hey, good luck with you. Good luck to you. We can afford this, this, and this, but not that. So
Absolutely.
But no, I mean, that's the way it goes. Trailblazers always get shot at.
That's right. That's right.
I want to go back to the Indiana game though, and what lessons were learned real quickly if you got time. I saw an Ohio State offensive line that had trouble with movement, sometimes before the snap, but definitely after the snap. Games being played up front by Indiana's defense, like you were talking about when you're Texas A&M or Miami getting ready to play Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. What are you gonna see from that? That's going to buoy you in terms of getting after Julian. Julian Sayin still had a decent game. I mean,
Yes, he did.
A very decent game.
But I'll be honest with you, like let's be critical after a loss. Decent for a Heisman hopeful, decent on the big stage at a school like Ohio State. And again, I think that, Ryan Day, holds himself accountable as the leader of men. And I think we as Buckeye Nation, is decent, good enough for Ohio State football.
Yeah.
So, and also just say 228 yards, 21 of 28, whatever it is, but 45 of it came to Jeremiyah as the expiration of the clock expired. So really it's like a bucks. It's like 20 of 27 for $175 and a pick and a touchdown. And then you're like, yeah, that's very ordinary maybe for the quarterback at Purdue.
Yeah.
No offense to Purdue.
But it's almost exactly Mendoza's numbers too, though.
No doubt. And that's why I think the score reflection of 13-10 goes to show the recipe. If you didn't watch the football game, you probably go defensive football game and both quarterbacks struggled.
Yeah.
If you've been around football long enough, that's probably the recipe. And if you go back and watch, that's exactly what it was. It was just, defenses being held, defenses, playing the run well.
Crazy.
I think it's kind of go back to your original point was the offensive line coaches and the offensive line players must go back and reflect on, what worked and accentuate that the way that you always do. And then how did we struggle and why did we struggle? Was it a struggle in a player? Was it a struggle in collective protection? Was there a miscommunication amongst players? Was it technique? And I mean, I guess the gift in all of this, as the dad of an offensive lineman who's had to learn offensive line play, in the last 24 months and can kind of be a little bit more critical when I talk about it is, it might be a few of those things. And the gift in all this is that we don't play on Saturday.
Yeah.
And you don't have to say, we're going to yank this player out, and put this player in, or we're going to scrap this concept. For this concept instead, it's like you actually have multiple weeks now to work on player technique or players as a unit or specific, techniques collectively and individually or concepts in the run game. And I think on the flip side, I'm going to be very complimentary of Indiana because they beat the number one team in the country. That's our Buckeyes. I thought their defensive line, with their anchors, because we weren't just blowing them off the line of scrimmage, the way that we've seen this offensive line do to Michigan, like we saw, putting Guy on skates against Texas in the opener, sliding on the turf. That wasn't happening a lot. And I think as we've seen through this Ohio State, run game coordination with, Tyler Bowen, Ryan Day, and Brian Hartline, it was kind of like we would attack them with, some zone stuff and some gap stuff, but we don't necessarily know what's going to work. And I think we figured that, it was tough sledding in the first half until, second half when both, finally popped some runs and got to that linebacker level. But so much of that has to do, to your point, with the movement and play of the Indiana defensive line, which I thought was physical and stout and also used movement and, little stunts in games to kind of confuse, our big physical offensive line and have them kind of having to be athletes on the fly and blocking moving targets as opposed to just a stagnant defensive line in the gap that we expect them to be in.
You know what I can't stand to see every time I see it, and I've seen it a lot with Ohio State over the years, the run game. I cannot stand it when I see a backside guy
run it down
defense run down a running back going the other side in the backfield. Because number one, I think sometimes offensive lines get too fancy. I mean, trying to pull this guy, you know what I mean, to be clever and
Yeah.
overwhelm the point of attack. When if I'm a defensive lineman, I just follow that guy.
Yeah.
And that's what Indiana did a few times on Saturday. But I've seen it. I don't know what's going on.
Say it
I don't know
again.
if it's my internet, but here's what I would do. I would make it fundamental. Just stand up and take on that guy across the line. And if they show an extra hat, count on your running back to go, make that one step. You know what I mean?
So here, I'll give you a little conceptual look as to, why they can do it and how you combat it, I guess you could say. You have, first of all, I'll just say this. If you, like, the RPO handles that very quickly because the quarterback's actually reading, usually the end man on the line of scrimmage, to the play, away from the run where it's like you're going to give. And if he comes, you throw it or you pull it and run right where he was. But I think Julian Sayin, and I'm not trying to take away the athleticism that we haven't run a lot of RPO. We have in a few spots, and it's been very successful. I thought that was going to be a big part of Indiana's plan because they came out with that RPO early. I thought to negate our physicality inside the box that they would RPO us to death, but they didn't, thankfully. But you run RPO or you run some type of read, which slows that player down. And I think, we as an offense have not had to do that because we've been able to. And again, I think like Bo Jackson, his offensive line, last 3-4 weeks have been playing well enough, him going north of 100 yards almost in every game, that we can just give it, block it, and we're comfortable, with offensive efficiency, getting 4.5, 5 yards on first down in the run game.
Yeah.
But then what puts you behind, what really was just, it's a snowball effect is you get that, tackle for loss or tackle at the line of scrimmage from behind. Now you're sitting in 2nd and 10. And it definitively starts to declare the personality of who we are as an offense on a specific down and distance. So on 1st and 10, we're going to run a gap scheme, and we're going to bring that hot body, that hot guy, down the line and tackle it from behind, to our strengths, like to the 2 tight ends or to the right side behind Phillip Daniels and Tegra. And then you get that TFL, and now it's 2nd and 10. And now it's like, we could play coverage, and rush forward and run games to affect Julian Sayin, and I thought, again, Brian Haynes, the defensive coordinator at Indiana, did a great job. I thought there were some pre-snap disguises that confused Julian. I thought, they were, kind of buzzing underneath Jeremiyah and keeping a hat over top of him. And if it wasn't just flat out, good player versus, not so good player and Jeremiyah just going to be in Jeremiyah, the scheme won a lot, in our pass game. I thought there was also, Julian Sayin was forced to hold the football, waiting for things to come open. I also think that their ability to take away some of the underneath checkdowns, which we got a few, but those are the debilitating plays that we've seen in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Or Julian Sayin, we run the down the field shots, and then you leak Bo Jackson into the flat, catches it for 4 yards, turns it into a first down, and you move those chains. Those were not available as well. So all in all, it was just a great executed plan. They kept it close. They negated, to the best of their ability, our elite, talented football players from making the big plays that bust games wide open, which is what we're so comfortable having happen as Buckeye fans.
Yeah. And like you said, it negated it. But sometimes, as I like to say, you still got Jeremiah Smith out there. I know this sounds simplistic as hell, but you still got Jeremiah Smith out there. Trust him to find the spot. You know what I mean? Trust him and just, try to stay on rhythm, like you said, because, man, 1 second hesitation, and people were screaming, I know, on the internet and stuff like that. I could, even though it was written, you could hear them screaming. But, but I'm just going, you don't understand the way the doors were opening and shutting in front of Julian Sayin, not just in coverage, but what was going on is, as Clay Hall called it, the blender. It was like a blender he was looking through there from the offensive line aspect of things, and then trying to make sense of what was going on behind him. That was tough for any quarterback, but a young quarterback. And the thing about it is, a lot of those guys kind of came free. I'm talking about the rushers at that very moment you want to be planting and throwing. And so
Correct.
now you're on the move.
And the other side of it is, and I think it goes to show, and we've talked about it all year, that the maturation of Julian Sayin is a young quarterback under duress can be stressed and make bad decisions and throw the football to the other team.
Yeah.
So what Julian Sayin did was, when his eyes would come down and he'd try to get them back up, and either in the past we've seen him scramble or potentially force the football underneath somewhere to an open receiver, he ate the football. And here's the reason why. It was a 10-3 game, or
yes.
a 10-10 game, or a 13-10 game. And Julian Sayin had to protect the football, because giving the football to Indiana, in advantageous field of the territory, Julian Sayin has probably been coached and developed to just eat that, take the sack, then punt the football away, make Indiana go 75 plus yards on Ohio State's defense, which has been so great all season long. So I'm sure in the messaging all week and in the development, week over week for Julian Sayin, it was, again, you've got full bandwidth to just throw it to the open guy or hit your check down, but don't force it to the point, it's to the other team, and then force them, a very good Indiana football team, to have to go short field and then just start, even 3 points at a time. If we're not rolling on offense, you know what I mean? They just start to open that game up. And I think, again, I'm just trying to find the silver lining in an offensive line that kind of struggled with the movement, and a quarterback who just looked off rhythm most of the night.
Yeah, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. And the main reason he looked off rhythm is because of the effectiveness of Indiana, just like Mendoza looked off rhythm a lot of the night, because, man, we saw two defensive fronts just get after the other team. And I really, I like watching that, believe it or not. I mean, I just like, because why be passive? Pardon the expression. Why be defensive? Be offensive with your front. And both of these fronts got after it. And a lot of times, like you said, with just the four guys, right?
I was just going to say that was you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. Is like, you didn't have to blitz for pressure.
Right.
It was four guys, winning their one-on-one or running games and stunts and confusing, the other offensive line, and just flashing bodies. We even saw, the hand matching sometimes, that, you throw a hand up right in the window that a quarterback wants to throw it through.
Yep.
That affects your confidence. That affects your rhythm. You start to second guess yourself, because a batted ball or a tip ball becomes an interception an awful lot at the college football and professional level.
Yeah. And, people get used to it. I'm watching the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. It was almost the same game.
Yeah.
On Sunday afternoon. It was almost the same game of, boy, you just got to get it. You got to get it when you can. You know what I mean?
Yes, you can.
From an offensive standpoint. And it's not going to be assembly line going down the field. Let me ask you this. My good buddy Dom Taberry also, loves to repeat that cliche. Defenses win championships, or defensive win games. I go, everybody, a lot of people were saying the defense played well enough to win. No, it didn't. Ohio State had the lead, and the defense gives up a touchdown drive.
Right.
You did not play well enough to win, because your team had the lead, and everybody knew what was going on out there. And so your vaunted defense, which has given up rare touchdowns all year, gave up one touchdown, but it cost them the game. And my point is, you don't give the defense a pass on this, because, all you had to do was stop them on a third down. And a couple of those big time third down plays by Indiana. I know when I asked Ryan Day about it after the game, I think he knew what I was talking about, but he kind of like looked at their stats. Well, they were 6 out of whatever on third down. I go, but 3 of those were huge.
Yeah.
At the moment.
I'll talk. I mean, just speaking of the touchdown itself, to kind of like piggyback the point that you're making, is it's props to Curt Cignetti, their play caller, and Mendoza for calling the play and then executing the play on, in big situations on third down, that one turned into a touchdown, one killed the game, and one just extended a drive. Right.
Yeah.
Although it might've been a low percentage. The one thing that I when I watched the football game, and why you see them throwing for the touchdown that they actually, on Jermaine Matthews, that he made a great play on and was in phase, that back shoulder fade was, and it's data and analytics, is teams when they get inside, because I think it was like cusp red zone, maybe just north of 20 yards or around the 20-yard line.
Right about there, yeah.
But teams, when they get inside the red zone, so inside the 20-yard line, let's say 15-yard line and in, it's like no one, or maybe Ohio State's given up one touchdown all year inside the 15-yard line. So it was an understanding of, I know exactly what coverage Ohio State's going to be in, and we're going to take our shot, with our Heisman candidate quarterback on a back shoulder fade to, our one of our number one receivers and out execute them.
We're going to take our shot.
I got you. Yeah. I thought props to Indiana for being in or about the red zone area and just said, we're going to take our shot and go for the jugular and throw that touchdown.
Yeah.
And not and then potentially settle for a field goal if we don't get it in.
Right.
Because it's almost always a field goal if they were to get inside closer, to the 15-yard line. No one scored touchdowns, inside the 15-yard line on Ohio State. That's where we're really like short things up. So it was them being a little aggressive, taking that shot, knowing exactly what Ohio State is in and capitalizing on it.
All right, last two things. Since our connection has gone in and out, I wish people could see it from our vantage point, right? It's like we're down in the trenches. And, man, I just let a guy go right by me. What was your take on the play calling? A lot of people have, were extremely critical of the play calling by Ohio State. They only had 22 plays in the first half. It's hard to even string together a sample size, as they say in polling, right? But and you take into account Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator, had just gotten the job. Named the new head coach at South Florida on Wednesday morning. That had to be a distraction no matter what was going on. That had to be a distraction for Brian Hartline and maybe the offensive staff. But the point is, these guys are all professional. I truly believe they did their job in some form or fashion. But just use a guy that played the game, et cetera. What was your take on the play calling I don't even know how sometimes it's when a play doesn't work, well, that was a bad call, but did you see them trying to hammer a bent nail after the nail was bent, I guess is what I'm asking.
Kind of, yes. And I think so much of it had to do, we saw the one like boot or waggle to Max Clare that went for like 16, 17 yards.
Yeah.
And I think going back to like UCLA and the Rutgers game when we didn't have either Carnell and Jeremiyah, we saw more Brandon Ennis. We saw more Max Clare. Again, we didn't necessarily need to see the younger wide receivers because in this case we had Jeremiyah and Carnell Tate. But I thought you saw a little bit more creativity of spreading the football around to your playmakers, knowing that both Carnell Tate and Jeremiyah were going to be highly focused on. And so it worked in situations in the game. But I guess to not question the play calling or anything during the week, because again, these guys are paid professionals to do the job. I think in some cases, to your point, there was maybe a time or two where I felt like, but then in hindsight, if the run pops for 7 yards, you don't question the play call. But a run in certain situation when it hasn't been easy sledding against a very good, Indiana defense, when we would just hand it off and it go for 1.5 yards, on first down, and now you're left with, 2nd and 8.5. That's an advantage defense situation. And it felt like we were falling into that kind of consistently and then just because of our inability to block some of their movement, you questioned your ability to drop back into a clean pocket and deliver a football to an open receiver.
Yeah.
Because and you pointed out earlier, they were getting home with 4, dropping 7, closing those windows, avoiding playing man in many situations. And that's tough for any quarterback to throw, even to great players in those windows. So I just think I walk away from this football game not so much questioning Ohio State's situational play calling, going forward on 4th down versus kicking it, or any situations or a run versus a pass in certain situations. I find myself walking away going, Indiana is who I thought they were. Indiana is a well-coached, nasty, hard-playing football team. And I think that's the same football team that I expect to play through the college football playoffs regardless of opponent. And I know that I hope that in the heart of our guys that it's like, let's take care of our business and see them again, in the game, the game number 2 that really matters, with it all on the line. And I wouldn't be surprised that it's going to come out completely different than the 13-10 battle as it was.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, it's always a pleasure with you, man.
Thank you, brother.
If people could see the problems we've dealt with, but we still came out a winner. At least I hope. I hope this thing saves correctly. I may be calling you back Wednesdays with Wilhelm.
That's fine. We'll do it again. It's all in between these ears somewhere.
I hope your middle name starts with a T. It'll be Tuesdays.
It does.
There you go.
Tyler.
Tuesdays with Tyler. I mean, I can see it. I can see it happen. I wish I hadn't even brought it up. I can see it happening. Hey, let me ask one last thing, and then we get here. Do you think this Ohio State team, now that you've seen them under duress and not be able to rise to the occasion at the end, do you see the makings of another national championship run? What is your? I mean, the vulnerabilities are out there. In some respects, this team needs to remake itself in terms of, I think, of predictability. I mean, the last third down play before the missed field goal, golly, boy, right? I mean, makes the field goal, you win in overtime. We're not even having this discussion, but it doesn't happen. But the last play, it was like in essence, a little bit of waggle action. It was a rollout right. They picked up the fullback kind of went by like they've run that play before where the fullback breaks wide open in the fullback, running back breaks wide open in the flat, touchdown. They jumped it. They also jumped the trailing tight end coming over the backside, and that's where Julian literally had to go with the ball to have a shot, and the defender makes a tip away. That was pretty damn good scouting, like you said, right?
It was, and I thought at quick watch live that Julian could have put a move on a defender who was coming from a kind of an inside out path.
Yeah.
To like maybe get darn close to just, okay, read A low is not available. I'm forcing it, to where he actually ended up forcing it to the tight end to the B, but to just be a little bit more definitive and just take off and run to the pylon, but run to the first down marker the best you could. And then you actually, if you're not in 4th and 1.5, but you're in 4th and a foot, does that change Ryan Day's ability to want to go for it? Because had his knee not went down earlier on 4th down, they had more than enough push, to get the first down. He just went to his knee earlier. So you do that better the next time around. Maybe you're first and goal from the 3.5. So that could have changed things. But to answer your overlying, question is, let me make sure you understand my question.
Yeah. That was a well-prepared defense that it did a great job of scouting Ohio State.
Yes.
My point. Go ahead.
Yes. No, I think that's great. And I think, again, it's kind of where I was going. The template to beat Ohio State is out there, right?
Yeah.
Affect Julian Sayin, negate the consistency of Bo Jackson in the offensive line in the run game.
Yeah.
It's how you keep it close. And then I think, and I'm not trying to say anything in regards to Matt Patricia, and the defense has been exposed as, Indiana just worked extremely hard for the yards that they got, a couple of great individual throws and catches that we talked about. I do think, going back, a couple of those early successful like pin and pull type runs that Michigan had on us, you saw Indiana implement early in the game when the running back got scot-free into the second level and just runs for, 15, 17 yards, which is like, because when it happens against this defense, you're always like, what the hell? It's like sky is falling because it happens so few and far between. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the recipe's out there. I think we have to work for the next 3 weeks to fix those things. And then I think, as always, just continue to, lock down and get better at the things that we're very, very good at. Yeah. And talent top to bottom will be as good, if not better, than everybody that will play in the college football playoff. I think from a preparation standpoint, given that we're going to have these 3 weeks, and from a health standpoint, if anybody's not healthy, this 3 weeks will give us an amazing break to get super healthy, to enter into that opportunity and, in Dallas, Fort Worth to play either Texas A&M or the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Wednesdays with Wilhelm. Thank you very much, Matt Wilhelm, and we'll see you next week, brother.
And one of the major points Matt made there was now you've got every game, something's not right in football. Something is not what it should be. And there were several things that were not what there should be, as he pointed out. But now you got a loss where a couple of those things came back and bit you. And offensive line, we always worried. I think you could say it was a worry that Ohio State might run into a defense that gave it fits up front. And wasn't necessarily more physical than Ohio State, but just played a different kind of game, made it a mind game, a mind reaction kind of game. And you don't ever want to feel like you're reacting if you can keep from it on offense. That's why they call it offense. And but you saw that a lot of times with Ohio State, and it can be just one guy missing his block, right, on one play that just blows it up because that's suddenly his guy's in the backfield stirring the drink, and you don't ever want to use somebody else's stirrer to stir your own drink. Isn't that right? You live by that credo, don't you, Clay?
Yeah, you want it.
Yeah. So Ohio State's got a lot to work on going into this game. They're not just waiting for a Miami and Texas A&M winner. They've got stuff they need to get straight. And of course, the winner of Miami, Texas A&M will pose yet another quandary for the Ohio State offense to deal with, along with Ohio State's defense. Saying that, and Matt agreed with me in the sense of this, stupid thing going around that Ohio State played defense good enough to win that game against Indiana. Nope. You had the lead, and you gave up the lead. That's, unless it's a pick six, that's on the defense. And once you have the lead, if you never give up any more points, you win the game, as Bobby Bowden said, and I've reiterated many, many times. And my buddy, Jeff Snook, who I'm going to have on Monday's show, he was really tight with Bobby Bowden at one point in his when he was a sports writer during his sports writing career. And so we'll discuss a lot of those kind of things and where he sees Ohio State can get better, especially in the realm of when it gets inside in the red zone, but especially inside the 10-yard line. Very disappointing, as he points out, there are things there that came back to bite Ryan Day and the offense that haven't been addressed the way at least Jeff Snook would like to see them addressed. And everybody's got an opinion, right?
Oh, my.
All
I
right.
mean, it does have to be fixed.
Absolutely.
If you're going to seal a game when the talent equates, you better be good in the red zone.
You got to win those battles, baby.
Yeah.
It comes down to one-on-one battles across the board. 1-on-1 ends up 11-on-11. And so we'll get to that on Monday. But you know what? Coming up on Friday's show, we're going to have more sound from Julian Sayin, but we're also going to have Jay Richardson, former Ohio State big-time football player who was in the NFL. We're going to have him once again on the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, especially featuring Clay Hall, because Clay Hall had a nice interview with Jay Richardson talking about the state of the program, so to speak, and where this is all headed. But you know what? Until then, I'm Tim May. That's Clay Hall. We'll see you then.